Good morning. Welcome to Flat Earth Early Bird number 1603. I'm your host, Arwin. And before I start the show, please don't forget to share it on any platform you deem fit. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you know when I'm going live, which is normally 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays and 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. And please also do support me through the PayPal and the Patreon. That'll be much appreciated, and I can always use the support, really, a lot actually. So yeah, please support me. I'm literally broke right now. Thanks to some of the skeptics' support in the recent few days, been able to still have food, but that's about it. So yeah, financially I'm not really feeling all that great. Anyhow, the weather is fantastic, so that's certainly making up for things. Beautiful, super clear sky, couple of fluffy clouds, no trails, or I don't know, maybe there have been some trails, but there's also wind, so it seems like they've just been blown apart up there. Yeah, and plants are just enjoying the sun a lot. With the plants, my balcony again. That basil is just exploding. Let's see. Oh yeah, and the oregano plant in the white pot, like, it's blooming. There's actually flowers on that long stick thing. Isn't that just nice? Hello, Richard G, first in chat, good to see you. It is Wednesday, the 17th of March, 2023. Yeah, I feel pretty good. I got a Illuminati croissant still in the oven, so I'll get that in a few minutes. Got the last of my greens because I'm out. Alright, better make it count. Right. So yeah, depending on circumstances, there's a chance I'm not gonna have a show tomorrow. Because I won't even have any mint tea. But we'll see what happens. Maybe I will get some support today. Maybe I'll get lucky and the money will come in a little earlier than usual. Who knows? Or it'll come in super late and I'm totally screwed. Alright, that's why I've been hoping for support from you guys. Because, yeah, this particular week tends to be very tough on me every month. And the last 2 months has been surprisingly good and easy on me. But I feel that this month may not be. Anyhow, support me, please, through the PayPal. watched some Owen Benjamin, by the way, and apparently he's kind of in a similar position. He like had a bit of a mood breakdown yesterday. That's okay, Richard G. I mean, if you can't, you can't. But yeah, I mean, I won't be able to either. Then that's, yeah, sorry. I wish I had more income and I could just do this just for the fun of it, focusing more on just like the subjects exclusively and not be distracted by worries of financial calamity in the back of my mind while I'm doing the show, because it is severely distracting, as you've all experienced. Right. Anyway, it's not going to be the subject for the entire show. So I took a look over at Dells for just a few seconds, and it seems like he's still stuck in the accelerating medium of Earth. He's still, yeah. So I'm afraid I'm gonna have to keep readdressing it. The advanced relative density. And I'm gonna do that for starters with the title. So, because this is the thing. Accelerating a medium causes a density axis shift. It's all there. And hey, yeah, it is what it is. The ballers can also latch onto it whatever they like. Craig can reassert that it must be gravity doing that somehow as a force. You know, all kinds of people can create all kinds of ghosts in order to explain the inexplicable. Right? Why? Why does density divide in less dense and more dense in the ratio it does in the stationary world? And why is the axis shift so perfectly predictable? Why does relative density not address moving mediums? Well, does it need to, right? Moving mediums are not exactly within nature. Right? But you can find salt in nature, and you can definitely find bodies of water in nature, and you can also find eggs in nature. So that's why that it doesn't really address it, and that's why I insist that the advanced relative density is technically not science. Although the most of the world at this point would think of it as science anyway, because they're not going to stick to the rigid original scientific method, in which you have to have a phenomenon that is naturally occurring and cannot be part of a man-made setup. The phenomenon itself, it has to occur outside of something that you've made, right? But yeah, other than that, it's pretty damn accurate, mathematical and everything. Hey Jado, good to see you. Yeah, by the way, Jado, have you gotten any word back on that weird bank transfer you tried last summer? Because I never got any. I hope you did get it back, though. I mean, it was like $300 Australian dollars, according to you. So I hope you did actually get it back and it wasn't just lost into nothing. Would be kind of cool if it suddenly arrived. But yeah, I mean, it's been over a year. That's probably not gonna happen. Oh, $500? Jesus. It just disappeared? But what the fuck? Can't you, like, talk to your bank? Like, I tried to make a transfer, but it didn't arrive anywhere. Can you undo that? That's just fucked up, man. Hello, the bad guy. Hey, Dr. Utker, good to see you. How do they measure that the Earth is... They don't, Richard G. They don't measure it. They calculate it. They infer it. How do you infer it? Well, by having a medium and then accelerating it and then noticing how the axis shifts. Well, if the axis is shifting, that means it was there. And then you just back calculate, like, okay, so how can I get this axis to shift to like 45 degrees exactly? And then you accelerate it that amount horizontally to achieve that 45 degree, and then you can calculate, okay, how much did I accelerate? Well, that's exactly going to be how much the Earth is presumed to accelerate up in order for that system to work. And then you know, right? And then you know how much you must accelerate downwards in order to negate the density axis. Because you can do that too. Right? It's a trick. It's a trick very similar to the application of gravity, which is also a mathematical trick, effectively, and traditionally used in architecture and all that, design, for like testing structural integrity. But it's mathematical, right? And for architecture, it's not relevant what the gas behavior is going to do. You're probably not going to, you're going to have an open building, right? There's not going to be closed off rooms and all that, so that gas pressure behavior might become relevant. It's all going to be a building open with holes everywhere and doors. So it's just going to be irrelevant what the solid material will do and liquids. So you can apply gravity. Makes it very simple for calculating structural integrity and all that, right? But you could do the same thing for a relative density-based system. And then you're just going to work with density axis. Right? But you can never scientifically prove that this calculated acceleration upwards is actual. Right? How would you, just think of it, how would you physically prove that this place is accelerating up? Right? Say it in the chat for me. I'll give you some time. How would you physically test that the realm is accelerating upward? Now, you can't, it's not, How would you? I'm not saying that, yeah, you can, of course, but how would you do it, right? Because if you answer that question, then you know why you can't. So why can't you test it? That's my question, basically. Well, how would you prove something is moving or accelerating, right? Well, by observing it as a separate reference frame to something else. Am I right? That's how you prove something's moving, by having something else in relation to it to reveal to you the two different reference frames and thus movement, right? So how would you prove that the realm would be moving, accelerating upward? Why? You would have to jump over the edge. You would have to then see that it is accelerating in relation to something else, the void of the abyss. And then you would have to be able to also get there, which would deliver another problem, because you need an open container against the abyss. So the abyss would have to then be filled with gas pressure, or everything would just immediately escape, just like with the outer space vacuum. So there's very little chance that it would even be technically able for you to move physically outside of this system, the realm, in order for you to have revealed that it's accelerating upward, and then you're stuck in the abyss forever and the earth is gone and you can't tell anybody, right? And that's why it's the reason why you can't physically prove the realm's accelerating upward, because you'd have to exit it, then you can experience it, and then you can't tell anybody. It's kind of like death that way, right? Nobody can tell anybody alive what death really is like really, what it's like when you stay on the other side. Nobody can tell that anybody. You can try to philosophize it, but you can't physically test it. Well, the same pretty much goes with trying to prove that the realm is accelerating upward. If you'd even have a chance to step outside of the system in order to be capable of proving it physically, right? So that's the reason why. It's like a fish trying to prove they're in a fishbowl. Okay, logical conclusion. Yeah, science definitely proves claims. What the fuck? It proves or disproves the cause of the effect. Science exclusively proves things. It proves the cause of an effect, or it disproves it. There's never going to be something not being proven. You would have to be able to see the whole thing. Well, not just about see it. You would have to become aware of the separated reference frame, Richard G. That specifically. It's not about seeing the whole thing, it's about not being part of the acceleration, so that you can indeed detect an acceleration. That would mean you'd have to separate yourself from the realm. How are you going to get back? if such a thing was even possible, if you can separate yourself from the realm physically. Hello, LSG, good to see you. Right. And I mean, a fish at least has some sort of inkling of a chance to be able to prove he's in a fishbowl. You see, a person could pick up the fish out of the fishbowl in a net or something, or in their hand, and basically hold them in front of the fishbowl so they could see, not through water, that, hey, there's this thing. Hey, there's the little house and the plant that is familiar that I'm seeing there. Is this the thing that I'm living in? Yeah, it's a fishbowl, right? A man could pick the fish up and show him from the outside. Yeah, we don't have a man on the outside of the realm, a physical god giant or whatever, that can just take us out, show us like, oh, can you see the realm accelerating up? Ooh, look at how fast it's going. And then put us back, right? That's not going to happen. Except maybe in really intense dreams or something. You know, but not physically. Right. I'm gonna get my Illuminati croissant. Should be done. Okay, not good enough. I put it back in the oven. What the fuck? Logical? No, that's just incorrect. That's ridiculous logical conclusion. It is correct, or it isn't correct. The experiment remains repeatable, and it isn't an estimate, it is proving the cause of an effect, or proving that something, the thing that you think it is, doesn't prove it. It's not about estimation. The estimation is the scientist's job to try to find what causes the effect in order to be able to manipulate that and prove it. Yeah, but that's not part of the scientific method. You're just completely and utterly incorrect. Yeah? Because knowledge, that's cute. Yeah, that's not science. Science isn't just knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. Lore is knowledge. Engineering definitely can be considered knowledge. But only the scientific method is science. So if you just replace everything you said there, logical conclusion, if you replace the words science with knowledge, yeah, or lore, yeah, that would kind of work. It doesn't work with science at all. Yeah? Science absolutely, exclusively proves things. It proves them to be correct or wrong. Yeah? And it absolutely definitively proves it, because once it's repeated by everybody and people can prove that it works or it doesn't, well, guess what? That doesn't fucking change over time. Yeah? It doesn't change. It remains the same. Yeah? A lack of vitamin C still causes scurvy. Yeah? Water will still boil when you introduce heat. Nothing is going to ever change that. It is never unproven. It is never an estimation. No, it is proven. And it remains proven. Yeah, the entire setting of the realm doesn't just change like that. Like the very foundational functions of phenomena and substances doesn't just shift like that. Yeah? It doesn't just suddenly change how the pattern of things work. They don't. They remain the same. The patterns remain the same. And thus you can have consistency within your experimentation. People can repeat the same test and then get the same results. That doesn't change over time ever. Yeah? Now, any logical conclusions or philosophical implications, that's another matter. But that doesn't actually have anything directly to do with the experiment, you see. The experiment is the physics part, it's the physical part, the science part, and any existential conclusions, that's just a bunch of blabbermouthing. Doesn't actually prove anything. Just pulls forth your hopes and dreams or whatever. If you're a nerd, you're really into that. It's cute, right? But it doesn't actually prove anything. Your philosophy about that. Do you understand? So you're just really, really incorrect. And you can keep chanting that error continually like a rumpus, trying to reinforce the pseudoscience. And it just makes you look like a pretender clown muppet. You're just incorrect. It is absolutely proven. Science, the scientific method, is not a fucking estimation. It proves the cause of an effect, right? And if it doesn't, because the hypothesis, well, points at the wrong thing to be able to cause the phenomenon, well, then it has the null clause, yeah? Which proves that it doesn't cause the effect, yeah? That's also proving something. It proves it isn't that. And when you repeat that experiment, it's going to keep proving it doesn't cause that. Do you understand? You are so fundamentally incorrect, it's really embarrassing here. Logical conclusion. You're not being honorable to your own name. Yeah, and stop projecting your garbage on me, or I'll kick you the fuck out. Yeah? You're just wrong. Science absolutely, exclusively proves things. And those things remain proven. Why? Because you can literally do it yourself and then prove that it does actually cause what you thought it did, the phenomenon. With every single experiment that's ever been recorded. more than one way to boil water. Yeah, who cares? Why does that matter? It doesn't matter that there's more ways to boil water. Yeah? The point is that if you introduce heat, water will boil. Yeah? That doesn't mean, oh, heat is the exclusive cause for water boiling. No, that's a fucking retard conclusion. That's a scientific muppet fuckwit. It's like, oh, that's my conclusion. I'm gonna break everything apart because I'm a fucking retard. I can't just stick to exactly what the hypothesis says. I can't do that. I have to draw stupid conclusions because I can. And nobody's stopping me because science doesn't prove anything now. I'm just a fucking retard. I can say whatever the fuck I want because science is owned by Satan, bitch. You can just lie about everything now. And it'll be accepted and you'll be rewarded. You'll be paid money. Satan owns science now. So you could just lie. Flip it inside out. Chant ridiculous bullshit like science doesn't prove anything. When it exclusively proves things. If science wouldn't prove something, the method, then it wouldn't be an effective method. It's only effective because it exclusively proves things. And then you can repeat the test, the experiment for yourself to confirm that it does indeed prove it. Yeah, the cause of the effect. Yeah, or that it doesn't cause it, which is also proving something. It proves it or disproves it. If you disprove it, that's also proving something. Indeed. See, LSG gets it. He's not a fuckwit. He doesn't listen to Rumpus and other ball wizard philosophizing idiots that are highly paid by the system to do that and be all prominent and get their own TV specials. Alright. Yeah, now Satan is about as happy with the scientific method as he is with the legacy of Christ, his teachings. He hates it because Satan wants something very specific from you. He wants you to not be able to tell the difference between reality and illusion. Yeah? That's his mission. That's his gameplay. So yeah, science exclusively proves the cause of an effect, right? Or proves that it isn't the cause of that effect. So what will Satan introduce through blabbermouths on television, getting overpaid, indoctrinating everyone? Well, of course, that science doesn't prove anything. It's merely an estimation. Let's completely flip it inside out. Yeah, let's flip the very foundation that gives it value. Let's flip it inside out and make people believe like it doesn't prove anything, yeah? Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's kind of like what the church did with Christ, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, he is God. He is God, even though it's like in the tablet rules from God that you shouldn't idolize anybody because God is only God and not a person. Right? Shouldn't have graven images. So yeah, of course, let's make everybody believe with a chant that like their life depends on it, of course. They could go to hell if they don't just chant it. That he is God. Of course, let's do that. Yeah? It's called Satan. It's called Satan. And he owns your mind because you're fucking weak. All of you out there. You're all weak. Satan around every corner, and you just you're done with it. You don't want to be real anymore. You just want to get along. So just bite down and take the lie, flip it inside out, and Satan will leave you alone. Yeah, and so will God. Yeah, Satan won't actually leave you alone. You'll start seeking Satan out, because once you start doing that, God will leave you alone. Because God is absolutely allergic to people that flip reality inside out. Flipping reality inside out is like a shield against God for your mind, to get away from your sins, to negate your sins, right? I mean, if you just pretend or argue how God doesn't exist, well, then sins wouldn't matter. And then, oh, you're not burdened all of a sudden. Oh, that's a relief to imprint that illusion on yourself, like you're not in trouble, like you're not going to be paying for what you did. Yeah, convenient, isn't it? Oh, the pain. Oh, all that pain, all the mistakes, the compounded mistakes that you're all carrying around like giant chains and balls in hell, in your illusion that you're doing everything great. You just keep on that illusion that you're doing everything great. Keep holding on to that, yeah? While you slap people out of the way and mistreat them and bully them if they point at a little provable fact. How you're flipping things inside out. Yeah, keep going with that. Now keep smacking the people that actually point at the truth. Just steamroll them. Yeah, I mean, science doesn't prove anything. It's just an estimation. And Jesus is God. And he prays to himself, except he isn't. And then, oh yeah, we could just rearrange all the words based on that understanding that Jesus is God. And that changes everything. And then you can just like read the words differently. You don't read them as they are. You just fill them in with how you know it should be. Based on that assumption. That's not part of the Bible. Just keep doing that. Yeah? Keep committing that sin. That is a proven sin on the tablet. I mean, some of these people that broken all of that, right? They told you if you just chant, you'll be forgiven. Yeah, you can just do whatever the fuck you want now if you just believe that Jesus is God. You can do whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter anymore. You're forgiven and he's taken it all, right? You're free. You're free to be a maniac. Free because, oh, it's just a mistake. Just a mistake. Just a mistake. Let's go. Mistake. It's all free. We can do whatever the fuck we want because we're all forgiven. Only thing you have to do is just chant something that contradicts somebody's teachings. Yeah, just fuck it all, right? Satan lives. Just fuck it all. Fuck it all to death. It's all inside out. We're free. Woo! Yay! Satan rules. We're free. We don't have to think of things as they are. We can just flip it inside out and we're free. Yes. Satan is much like... No. Satan is very simple. Satan is lies. God is truth. Literally. The very essence, through our spirits, of truth and of knowing truth is God. The essence of delusion and denial of reality. Yeah? The lie and the acceptance of the knowing that you are turning reality inside out and still going with it. That's the essence of Satan. Very force of lies itself and what that does to you and what it does to the world. That's Satan. Lies is Satan. Truth is God. The essence of it. Yeah. So it's even like concept, whether they're illusory or physically real, is not God or Satan. It's what people do with it. If you learn about gravity in school, you think like, oh yeah, that works. cool. And then later you get to hear like, yeah, but it doesn't actually work. Right? There's things that it doesn't take into account, like gas behavior and all these dilemmas, and like mass doesn't really attract mass. I mean, it's highly disputed. And then you're like, no, 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 no. It is Newtonian. It is mass attracting mass. Yeah? That's Satan. Why is that Satan? Because you were confronted with evidence, information that proves there's an inconsistency, there's something not complete, it's not complete. And you reject it because you wanted it to be complete. You wanted something that wasn't real. And then you made that your reality. That's Satan. Literally. It's like, oh, I don't like the way this sounds. I'm just gonna believe what I want. That's Satan. And you lose control. Yeah, when you tap into Satan for your own comfort, you lose control. You lose oversight. You lose track of what is real. If you start to like flip reality inside out for yourself just to get by, you lose track of what is real. Your senses become destabilized concerning what is real. That just happens. You keep doing it enough, you'll end up like Craig. You'll start to say like, yeah, you see that hand in front of you, it's not really there. Yeah? That's where you end up. Complete delusion. Saying that, no, I'm not saying. Anybody, George Sanford, Richard G, Illis G, right? Did I at any point infer a person, an individuality to my description of Satan? Did I at any point do that? Or is logical conclusion now at the stage where he's just projecting his inner shit onto me? Can you guys answer that? And I'm gonna get my Illuminati croissant. They're still working on the wall. It's projections. Yeah, dead right. Dead on target, LSG. Physicality assumption bias. Yeah, I mean, physicality assumption bias is often a driving effect, force in the mind to do that. Sure. But most of all, physicality assumption bias comes into play when you insist, right? When you insist something is physical, when you don't have conclusive evidence. That's the real physicality assumption bias. I mean, it's always there, the tendency to assume something is physical at first hand, right? When you see or whatever. But the real physicality assumption bias comes in when you insist that it is physical and not something else. That's when it's really there. That's when it's got control over you. But I mean, yeah. It's like an instinct thing. It's like one of the first things you do when you see something new. It's like, oh, size up. How is this physically there? Right? When you see something like the sun, it's like, well, what am I looking at? Right? Question what? What is it that I'm looking at? And then like, how could this be a physical thing? Anyway. Satan be a physical, an entity? No, I don't think Satan is an entity. I think he's a force, like God. Like it's a spiritual influence. And that's not a physics force, a spiritual force. And you could say Christ is also a spiritual force on the other side, the Spirit of Christ, the Holy Ghost. It's really there. There's something there. I mean, that's the thing that I interface with my rituals, like with my technique, my healing technique. It's not a being. No, it's not a being. It isn't. It's not something as we are. It's more like an influence. It's everywhere. We're part of it, or it is part of us, like Christ can be part of us. Right? But Lucifer arguably is an entity, just like Archangel Michael. But I don't think Satan is an entity. And also I think there are literal red horned devils out there, or through somewhere. Seen them. It was really freaking weird. Right? But I don't then automatically say, oh, that must be Satan. No. I separate the concept of Satan in that sense. I don't personify it. I'll personify Lucifer as a being, but Satan is rather just like the force of it. The force of lies and Ahriman, what he would be called in Rudolf Steiner lore. Ahriman, the destroyer. There's a Lucifer and an Ahriman there, right? Lucifer being the seducer and the arrogant one and the lively one, and who thinks that he can be God. And then Ahriman is basically the other side, which draws a conclusion like, no, it's all going to die. So how can we just control? How can we control it? Sacrificing one life for another, mental enslavement, roboticization. That's all Ahriman. But yeah, those are not beings. They're an influence. They're like a icon. It's basically like an icon that is sort of a personification. You could very much personify Lucifer and Ahriman in that system, but they are influenced. They're not actually like a being that's going to manifest and then interact with you. It's not like that. They're just an influence, and they can be personified. They can be personified with a painting or a statue with some symbols, but they are not entities. Not literally an entity. They're more like, an influence. Something that just does things, and you can be touched by it and possessed by it, and then you do it too. It's almost like they're a state of being in ways that can overcome you. Right. But beside that, because that's the Rudolf Steiner cosmology, in which Lucifer is an influence and Ahriman is an influence, there's no Satan in that thing. Basically, Satan is both those things. It's just split apart into two distinct, different types of influence. It's very effective. I like the Rudolf Steiner method in that sense, esoterically. But in the overall being, Lucifer I'd regard as an entity. But as Satan, no. Satan's always been a symbol. Always. Always been a symbol. No, I've not heard of that, and I don't want to hear of that. That's fucking disgusting. Aries 106. I mean, that is fucking disgusting. Anyway, I'm gonna chow down on this Illuminati croissant. Ooh. Right. Anyway, in my esoteric system, very simple. You have God and you have Satan. Truth and lies. And then you have Christ, Lucifer, and Ahriman. Two sets of tables. Right? One being super black and white. God and Satan, truth and lies. It's black and white. It's very much black and white. It really is. But Christ, Lucifer, and Ahriman, those are more hard to spot. To differentiate, really. You gotta kind of like feel it out and you'll know afterward. Who gives a shit about some fucked up asshole? Yeah, who gives a shit? I mean, I'm sure he has more subscribers than me and is super promoted and everybody throws thousands of euros or whatever dollars against him. I'm sure he is, because if you're going to call yourself that you're going to be a disgusting, vile piece of shit demon, yeah, the system's going to throw the grand prize at you. Right? If only they just take it the next step and just fucking kill themselves. That would be great. Ah. Unfortunately, they never really do. They just want to make other people's lives miserable. Right, hope you guys have been enjoying the show. I've been pretty lively here. Weather's still beautiful out there. It is really great. Though the wind, it is a bit cool. Let me check the temperature. It's probably not really warm. 16 degrees, right. In the sun it feels warmer. So, logical conclusion, you got anything left to say for yourself? Are you gonna retract your ridiculous philosophical solipsistic nonsense statement about science not proving anything? And it's only an estimation? I've never heard anything that ridiculous since the last anti-flat earther I heard open their mouths. I didn't think that you were an anti-flat earther though. No, sorry, so you're still a fucking retard then? After all that? I mean, did I miss any part in my succinct explanation as to why you're totally incorrect? Did I miss anything, guys? Or is logical conclusion just a fucking fuckwit? What's my opinion about demon possession and exorcism? It's complicated. I mean, I've sort of, yeah, I mean, it's just freaking complicated. And I think that like the Catholic Church has really oversimplified it all. But I think that effectively demon possession is psychological with some really severe influences. But I mean, why is a demon there, right? Why is a demon in you? Well, he's there because he's serving a function. Demons only come in invited. And they're there usually to mask some trauma, to help you get through some trauma. But as they do, they also start to take other things away from you as well and insert destructive behavior. So in my opinion, it's like possession comes forth from escapism. It's like super advanced escapism. Right? confrontation is like the weak point of the entire setup. And hey, if you're not going to confront things with the possession, yeah, then it's like you can't really fix it. So let's just say hypothetically, you have a Catholic priest and you have some woman, and the woman figures out like, yeah, there's a lot wrong with Catholicism, and they're like almost like the devil, and they become like super conflicted inside because they are Catholic and they really want to be with God and part of the community at the same time, and then they might literally get possessed because of that, because they know like everything's inside out. It's like, and it's really distressing, and then they might become possessed, and then the Catholic Church will just not be able to break that possession because it is in it, because it cannot confront its own fundamental flaws which break the whole thing. So the Catholic Church would never be able to just quickly help them out of it, help them snap out of it, because they can't confront them with the issues that brought it there. Right? Possession and escapism are like lock and key puzzles. You gotta find the right key, you gotta find the right thing that put it there. Recognize it, call it out, and then you might be able to undo it. That's my experience. But if you cannot face the key that caused the problem in another, then you cannot you cannot take their demons away, because you can't use that key, because you're escaping from it too. It's just not stressed you the fuck out to the level that you've become possessed by it. That's the difference. So I hope that clarifies things. Zen Solo. If I need to elaborate, just tell me. Right, another worrisome detail about possession, what happens in the mind, if you still have some control over it when that happens, is that mostly you don't know it's not you. It's just like real possession that really overtakes you. You think it's you. And you think that that behavior that's really absurd is also part of you. Right? It's only very rarely that I've heard of cases where people would be like possessed and like split apart within themselves. And then they would like feel like something else is taking control over their actions, and they're just looking at it at a distance. That can also happen. That's what happens when you do realize it's not you. and you try to stop it, but you can't. And that really feels like, that's like scary. That's like actual possession in a very visceral way. Because then it's like, what's taking over my body? Help! I don't want to do this, right? When you're really possessed, you think it's you. You know it's you. You argue it's you. You will not see it as something else. You mean schizophrenia? Oh yeah, define schizophrenia. Like you fucking know what you're talking about with that. Yeah, let's just call it schizophrenia. That fixes everything. Oh yes. No, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, schizophrenics, yeah, they're more easily possessed. They're less ingrained with their spirit in their body. So they can get lost. They're a little bit more vulnerable, yeah? But schizophrenia doesn't explain everything. Yeah, it doesn't at all. Yeah, possession can also happen to people that aren't schizophrenic at all. Right? If something is just heavy enough on you, schizophrenia can be part of possession. No. Schizophrenia just makes you more vulnerable for compartmentalization like that. That is all. It's a vulnerability of a person. It's something that's more about the frame than about the effect that's happening. How do I differentiate between a mental illness? Well, it's only a model, logical conclusions. Both can simultaneously exist. It's not that difficult at all. Right? One is much more focused on the flesh. Very isolate. The other is much more holistic. Yeah, when talking about possession and Satan and God, it's more holistic. It has more to do with purpose. Makes it more understandable in ways to the spirit. While the psychology approach is just kind of materialistic. You can use both. I mean, I do it sometimes. I sometimes just go like, yeah, this is straight out psychological like this. But I usually do that when I notice that there isn't a strong leading story effect, you could say, spiritual purpose-based effect that is involved. Because those types of influences are usually very dominant. While psychological illnesses are much more just like sizing up a certain type of weakness. It's something that you can't handle all that well, and what will happen typically. It doesn't explain what happens when subjected to a whole context of things. I'm bored. How do I want to feel? Maybe. Well, I think that, look, just because they are motivated for the attention doesn't mean that it's not actually real. It's just something that they can be like, okay, I have this, I'm just gonna let it happen. Right? You could also call it hysteria. You could, all kinds of things. It's just, yeah, some people have that in them and they can just choose to like, okay, I'm gonna now let myself go crazy. Yeah, that happens. Sure it does. Doesn't mean that it is just an act, though. It just means that people sometimes choose to let that happen. Damn it! Fucking mouse. You've seen The Exorcist? Is it like that? No. Not at all. I mean, some of those things could happen. It all depends on how bad a shape a person is. And some people, especially like younger women, yeah, they can have dormant kinds of powers all the time. I've seen that happen before. And the thing is about those types of powers is that, well, entities can basically slip in and then use that power. They can't, but the entities can. So it's not like suddenly a magical monster gets in them and then they start flying. It's that something is slipping in that's using their powers that they can't use themselves. Yeah, because there's no entities, no non-human spirits that actually have like their own personal special powers. They don't have anything. They only have the ability to be let in or be kept out of human systems. And if they're in there, they can potentially use the powers that are available in the person. And that the person is usually, most of the time, just keeping dormant. Which is recommendable. So there are actual entities. Well, yeah, there are non-human entities also, but that's really, it only happens when you keep yourself like really locked out. So extreme escapism. And like other things just start to walk in and take over. Now you could technically argue that those other things are like broken personality formations of yourself. But yeah, you could also think of them as external entities because they are usually very different and even have potential memories of that aren't part of the person. Gets a little complicated. Right? It's kind of tough to explain how a little kid can suddenly get possessed and then start talking another language that they've never even heard before. But that does exist, and then the translator comes in and like, yeah, this is what they're saying in this language. But they've never even heard it before, right? So you could definitely argue then, like, is that the same person? How would they have attained that information? It's more logical in such a moment to conclude that they might be having another entity slip in that has that information and they don't.
And then afterward, when they get snap out of it, if that happens, they don't have any memory of it at all. And like, you could record such behavior, and then when they snap out of it, show it them on video, they'll freak out like, that's not me, that's not me, I don't have any memory of this. So yeah, how can you prove it? You can't. You can only model it. So yeah, whatever you want, man. You want to be all materialistic and psychology based, you do that. You just keep everything out. It's just all a bunch of dirt. Yeah, you want to be a dirt dweller, you be a dirt dweller. It's all dirt. Good on you, right? Or you can have a more esoteric spiritual model, and then you can choose from all kinds of directions with all their pitfalls and their railroads. I personally like the Rudolf Steiner model, but I've made my own esoteric models, which are like, I don't even know how to pinpoint an origin in that. They're kind of hermetic. It's just what I scraped together over my lifetime by myself, and have associated with things that I'm good at and interested in. Yeah. So yeah, logical conclusions. You can argue that they are actual entities, non-physical entities that can take you over and have alternative memories and all that. But you can't prove it. Yeah, I'm not a fucktard that's just gonna assert whatever comes to mind like that. I actually carefully think about those things. I think about models and about how certain things cannot be proven, and how the opinion about them stays split forever. And there will always be the two different approaches, and they will never merge, and they will always bicker. But both can absolutely be true, and they both will function in their approach. Hello, Gaining Wisdom, good to see you. They wouldn't remember anything what they said after so-called possession. Yeah, most of the times actually. But sometimes they might, if they're like waking up in the middle of a possession. Because normally, from what I heard, when you really get possessed, you kind of get put into a dark hole. You can't get out. You get put in a like a mental prison. But you can wake up from that sometimes, and then you can be like, you'll have like two people at the same steering wheel. So you're trying to control your body, but it will something else also. And that's really that's really traumatic, by the way, to experience that. It's really traumatic. It can also lead to nerve damage, I think, if that persists too long. Right? So there's all these mechanisms, all these testimonies of people that have experiences like that, and it's all just models based on experiences. You could say, oh, it's all psychology, or you could say, yeah, those are actually spirits from the outside and that are doing things with you if you're vacant enough, if you're vulnerable enough for them to basically slip in and start doing that with you. Basically taking over the controls of your brain, of your personhood, of your spirit even. would you consider the woman that lived to the Saber children as being possessed for a moment? Maybe. It's very hard to tell. It might be. Sounds kind of corny, but it might literally have been an angel in the moment. Because you can get possessed by angels too. It's not just only dark shit. Something can just choose to, like, okay, you're now capable of doing this. Bang. Last very short moments, by the way, that usually. But yeah. Maybe they were possessed. You'd have to ask the person, were you aware of what was happening when you did that? There's a great likelihood, if there is some kind of possession involved, again, that they weren't conscious in that very moment of what they were doing. It's like it was all just happening to them. No, there's no duality in science. It's only proving or disproving the cause of an effect. Yeah, well, that's very cute, logical conclusion. A rush of adrenaline can't make you pick up a car. Yeah? You could try to do it, but what would happen is you'd literally rip your muscles and snap your bones. Stop being so defensive. Well, stop being so wrong. Why did you say something that actually is correct for once? You haven't said anything. You haven't brought anything to the table that's been correct since you got in my chat today, logical conclusion. So, yeah, I'm not gonna stop being defensive because you won't stop being wrong. Anyway, man, Illuminati croissant certainly hit the spot. I feel great. The sun is shining bright. Plants are growing. Only thing that would top the day off would be a PayPal donation, which I think is very well worth it, considering the show today. It's been pretty damn good, hasn't it? Now, I'd like to see that reflected sometime. You didn't clear it? Yeah, you brought it to the table, though. So why don't you just take ownership of all your flaws and errors that you've put here on the table? Logical conclusion. Why don't you just take ownership? Yeah, if you're gonna be wrong, just frickin' admit it. Right. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Didn't really talk too long about accelerating mediums. Maybe we should rename the show. Okay, I renamed the title. I'll leave the relative density for another day. This isn't wrong. Yeah, Rachie. You just came in. Yeah, and a simple rush of adrenaline is not gonna make people capable of doing that. I mean, yes, it'll make you stronger, but not that freaking strong. Like, your bones will still have to basically take all the strain and all that. Ahriman is close to the name of one of your school. Oh, okay. Who's Ahriman? No, it's not Ahriman. It's Ahriman. A-H. Ahriman. And Ahriman is a Rudolf Steiner conception, a model, that basically splits the old-fashioned conception of Satan into Lucifer and Ahriman, the seducer and the destroyer. With very specific traits. Alright. Technical disruption? I have no idea what you're talking about, Derek. You mean my computer or something? No. I mean, not more than usual. If anything, there's a technical disruption in the amount of donations people give me. There's a disruption. Because, yeah, I am not getting the same type of income as I have been for the last few years now, and that includes even during the medical experimentation days. During that whole 2 years. So, communication devices. Games are gone. What? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about, Jared. Problem with charging? Okay, if you say so. I haven't really charged anything in the last 3 days. Or weeks. I rarely charge my phone because I don't use it that often. possible? Oh, that's a tricky question there, Richard G. Is it possible for spirit to speak to you within thoughts? Well, thoughts psionically, yeah. It is. But I mean, that's technically the same mechanism that makes you hear voices. But I mean, there are people that like hear voices and they can literally hear different voices. And usually people that hear voices, they have like the person that speaks to them usually is not great for them. They're usually pretty sadistic and mean. They're kind of demonic. It's like their own dark side trying to fuck them up. But sometimes another voice can just like in a moment take over. That is not of that nature. And you'll feel it. It's like it's something else. It's like an angel or some higher spirit or something. It's weird how that works. But I mean, I've experienced it, and I very, very rarely like hear voices like that. But with some people, it's like weird. It's almost like telepathic, and I can just hear their thoughts. But it only works because I'm like daydreaming. It's very weird how that works. It's not like I'm literally like, oh, and suddenly like, oh, there's some sound taking place in my head. No. It's just more like I get like sort of distracted and then like, oh, that's what you're saying. And then you realize that there was nothing said. There was no auditory sound. Yeah, that happens sometimes. It's weird. Yeah, thank God at least I don't have like a nasty type of person that's literally saying things in my head like that. Like I don't hear voices. Like I have like the inner voice, but it's not like that. Inner voice is like not really actual sound. It's my internal world. And yeah, I can get really agitated and restless there and self-punishing. You guys have seen some of that being expressed. But that never manifests as like a literal voice that just like, something's talking to me. No, it's not like that at all. Never had it like that. Yeah, it's got you there, George. Well, what does the sun do beside light? Right. Besides, you don't even know what the sun is. Let's be fair. Just got a bunch of weird angular light apparitions. Can interrupt communicate. Oh yes, of course. It's all the sun. So, what's your evidence for that, George? Did some people in white coats tell you that it was done by the sun? Oh yeah, it's just a solar flare from the sun. It caused some temporary power outage. It's like, oh really? Really? What's your fucking evidence for that? Oh, did they just make it up? Is there just some weird correlation that if the sun goes a little like a little brighter or whatever, then suddenly like that happens? Any more correlation? You ever had a sunburn? Yeah. Yeah, light definitely arrives, absolutely. Study the effects of communication. Yeah, but how? You don't even know what the sun is. Now, if that study would focus specifically on measured sunlight, and then how does radio function with said measured sunlight, now that's a different thing. If that would be the thing that it was studied, then I'd be like, yeah, probably the sunlight does have like a direct influence on how radio works, right? Probably. The sunlight arriving influences a whole bunch of things, but it's not like the sun doing it. It's like the influence of light on matter causing radio to pass through differently, right? That makes logical sense. If it's that, then I'd be like, yeah, sure it does. Sunlight's going to influence the matter, and the matter is going to then transmit the radio signal differently. Sure, that sort of makes logical sense to me. But anything other than that, I mean, like, ooh, an EMP from the sun. Oh, really? How do you know that's the sun? How do you know it's from that? I mean, did the sun suddenly get like 10 times as intense in half a second? Like, poof, super bright, and then the equipment is being distorted. Is that what's happening? Or is it just like, yeah, it's a bright and sunny day. Oh, shit is suddenly failing. What's happened? Oh, it's probably the sun giving an EMP. There's a solar flare. What the fuck? How do you draw that conclusion? How? Right? So I'd love to hear about sun EMPs disrupting electricity nets and all that. And then I'd like to see the model and the actual measurements that were taken to come to that conclusion. And not some stupid stories about a giant ball of gas burning up with fusion in the middle of a vacuum and then transferring all that energy at a vast distance somehow. But how about the actual on-the-ground measurements of whatever is happening in order to figure out the cause of the supposed electric disruption? What has actually been measured? What's different? Is the light input different? Is it something else? How do you know it's coming from the sun? Also disrupt sound. Cool. But how does he know it's from the sun? I mean, can you have things in like a box shut off from the sun and then it won't be affected? How do you know it's from the sun? Like, doesn't it happen at night ever? There's no influences at night when the sun is not visible? Right? If it's gonna go, whatever it is, straight through a building in the shadow, then how do you know it is the sun that's doing that? Just because it happens to be out and visible. Like, I'm asking all these questions, but look, I think that probably there is some influence with daylight and all that. As I said, like, oh yes, daylight might influence the way the air works, and then radio waves might pass through them differently because of some polarization from the light or something. Like, yeah, sure. But, I mean, that's merely going to be a slight malforming or something. That's not going to be like a dramatic effect like an EMP. Okay? Hiding with this troll. Yeah, well, that's not very helpful then. I mean, you can't put that thing, you can't suggest you're basically figuring out something physics related and then draw in astrology. I mean, that's ridiculous and unnecessary. So yeah, I don't know about this Eric Dollard, but it sounds like vague at best. Sky divination, right? And hey, there's a place for astrology. I'm not against it, but you can't do that with physics. Physics deals with naturally occurring phenomenon that you can very manipulate. There's nothing about astrology or the position of the heavens that you can very manipulate. If you're going to say astrology is the cause of something, you're immediately locking out the possibility to make it scientific, whatever you're talking about. So, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm going to round out the show. Man, time has been flying. Hope you guys all enjoyed the show. I certainly did. It's been a great show. I've been very active. Non-stop talking pretty much. Very little silent pauses. Also, thanks to the Illuminati croissant, that definitely is a bit of fuel for the show. Wish I could get that tomorrow too. But I'm broke. So I'd be lucky if I get anything to eat tomorrow at all. Right. So, thanks everyone for coming. I hope you liked this show. If you did, then please don't forget to Rogans it up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you know when I'm going live, which is normally 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in weekdays and 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. And please also do support me through the PayPal and the Patreon. That will be critically needed. Yeah. And essential for the continuation of the Early Bird show. So please somebody help me out. That would be great. And then I can stop worrying and just enjoy the great weather and all that. And continuing doing great shows with lots of energy and insight and very little hanging around sort of depressed because I know I'm fucked. And then not having a lot of input and being more easily agitated, being less amused by remarks of people in chat, right? All that stuff that you love that, right? When I'm like that, well then don't donate to me. Just leave it all be, and you'll have more of that, just like yesterday. Right. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with Flat Earth Early Bird number 1604 on a Thursday, and I'm gonna join the Flat Earth debates over at Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. Should start up any minute now, and hopefully it will be a show and not just breaking down the computer again and talking about that. That would be great. Anyway, hope to see you there in the chat, and until the next video, keep it flat.